this. So y'all gonna have to wait for me for a little bit. I usually wait for you for 5 minutes, so now y'all can wait for me for 5 minutes. I gotta pay a bill and then go find somewhere to record this, because this is, I don't have good internet here, and so this is, I'm just eating up whatever what the term is, gigabytes of information on here. So I'm making this specifically for one person, because they have a pretty big channel, and they have made it's a beautiful person with a really good message, but they're very wrong about this salt thing. And it's not that they're lying to people. And see, this is what I like to nip in the bud when it arises, when people just start speaking something that is just not factually correct in this realm that's somewhat, it has a lot to do with salt. And so we're going to talk about salt today. But let me pay this bill, and then we'll get into it, and I'll explain to you. This is actually for Mia's new pair of glasses. Well, she needs to reshine her glasses because we need to get to the source of alchemy. And I'm going to explain what alchemy is, and what the alchemists do, and what the resulting salts are, and what the spirit is, what God is, what we are, what water is. And we're going to go into all the things that I've done in a lot of other videos about salt and water and all of this. But I'm going to just commit this kind of language and understanding, and obviously understanding, because the salt internally is something that shouldn't occur. And I'm going to get into some biblical language, such as you are the salt of the earth. So if you are the salt of the earth, then what is it that you need? Why would you need more salt if you're already it? We're gonna dig into all that. So give me a couple minutes, guys. And so anybody else that jumps in here, let them know that I want to be the dope pushers. Salt is dope. You have to be a dope to believe in what salt is. And there's some simple ways of figuring this out, and I'm gonna do this and that. And I mean this most sincerely to for someone and their channel, because they have a very big audience, and they seem very generous and sincere and loving and kind, and sometimes faulty information gets into systems, and then those systems repeat or loop information that is incorrect and like not valuable to as a host. If you have a party, you bring people through, and then you host them and you give them things. If you don't have the good stuff, if you don't have the good information, because we're dealing with all information here. If you're dealing with what information, because it's a formation that creates perfected vortices, that creates knowledge. And when somebody that has a large audience is going off on a tangent, they've lost the point of focus. And I don't deal with that. I do plenty of tangents for people, just so you can see. But let me pay this bill real quick. and by the way, thank you for everybody that does give me cash. It allows me to involve myself in the spirit, and then I can show you more about what spirit is and what salt is, because you pay for my my weirdness, my quantum lightness. Can I give you some monies?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can I give you money?
You can give me some monies. Thank you. You're welcome. Some monies. Be right back.
Oh yes, so many. Oh, there's some shiny objects. This one's not a great. This is not a great shiny object, but it'll be purple, hopefully, or maybe another color of my choosing.
I do like this. This is nice. It's silver, the color of winter's cold.
Mm-hmm. Ah, it's always the silver lining to things. It's good to see you. Yeah. Stay well.
Oh wait, you got all your money.
Yeah, I gave that to you.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah, of
much.
course. All right, y'all, hold on.
Life's casting stones my way. Trying to remember more than one lane on life's highway. Friendships breed and friendships bend.
I could probably just change this up real quick and you guys could just listen to good music. Some good live music. Oh man, I only got a small quantity of charge on this phone, so I'm gonna have to do this really quick for everybody. I mean, it's really a revisiting of a lot of the old talks I've done. Many hours worth of talks that are based upon many weeks, months, like real time devoted to studying this stuff, not only externally but internally. As an alchemist, we'll always internalize the information, and so the information which the alchemist absorbs is literally the knowledge that goes into you and the physical things, such as salt. And so people that speak about salt, they don't know what it is. They can't know what it is unless they've been completely unless they've completely removed those things. You can't know using an alchemical system. I'm gonna go home so I can grab a charger for this, so I can, in case it's gonna take a little longer than 15% charge. But as an alchemist, you have to clean all your equipment before you can know what salt is, because the end game is to produce what would be the philosopher's stone. The stone is the salt. But again, the most important part here is the spirit that creates that. It's the process. It's not the thing. The object is not the thing. The object has never been the thing. And so people that are talking about salt know nothing about the object of salt, nor the process of philosophy, the philosophy, or do they know about the what salt represents? There's so many things that it represents, and as I'm trying not to talk to I'm trying to somehow speak to one person directly, but I'm also trying to speak to the masses of people. What salt is and what it does. They say you're the salt of the earth, yes? And they tell you about this place in India. Everybody knows about the Dead Sea. You know why it's dead? Go ahead and look that up. It's dead because there's wind here happening, so I don't know if you guys are going to hear me, and I want to make sure this is clear, so I'm going to pause this, and then I'm going to talk to you about the Dead Sea. So y'all can wait about 30 seconds. We'll talk about the Dead Sea, and we'll talk about the word cure, because the word cure is very important to what salt is and its connection, both etymologically as well as so many other videos that I've done earlier work on for people about what the kings are and the salt that was used to sell people's souls into being stood upon. If your salt, things stand upon you. There's a lot of connections here I'm gonna make. Just give me like 30 seconds, y'all. We're almost there. Okay. Fantastical. Radical. Cool, we'll do this quick. Because all time is the right time to give information on what time is. Time is connected to the cube. The cube is Saturn. Saturn is the matrix. The matrix is based upon salt because salts are cubes. We cube time. We incubate in time. The Dead Sea. Here we go, y'all. Let me, you know what? Let me grab myself a beverage. Let me grab myself spirit that does not have salt in it, because it removes salt from the body, because the salt is the heavy, lower, dense realm of the dead world. Again, nothing wrong with it. We can use salt, but the witches, what did the witches use salt for? The witches use salt as protection, that they put it around themselves. They didn't eat it. A witch would never eat salt, but the Christians, they will sell you salt. They sold you the salt or the savior of your soul. They crossed your soul and gave you a crossing of salt, which introduced time into your system. Let's try to explain this. So the Dead Sea is dead because things can't live in a salty environment. Salt is a poison. It's been 1,000 times over explored and explained. Salt, it's a problem with language is what we have. Let me plug this thing in. 1 second, yeah. It's always a problem with the language, because what we want to be is happy and free and clear, and we want to have vibrations of love and energy and all of this, and we're all life giving, and life, we look after life, we look after what it is, what this energy is. What salt is in that energy matrix is not the thing. It's the resulting cubed force of it. Now, what I mean by that is that you can still something inside of salt, so you can look at the geometry of what was in the living distilled water. Distilled water means clean, pure water, which means not stilled. To die still means to not still something. So water is always in flux because it's a plasma. It's a living, light, liquid, plasmic structure. But when you put salt in there, it kills it. It stops it dead because it's connected to the Saturn scope of time. So you stop time by using salt. You stop life. When a baby comes out the womb, you don't feed it salt water. You'd be insane to do that because you'd kill the baby. Because the salt shouldn't be inside of the child. It should be around the child. This is why you jump into an ocean. And what happens during that? You're charging yourself, because the salt water, the salt is very important. I'm not telling you that Saturn and salt and time and all of these things are not important, because they are. They're very important. But you have to know the source of them. And the alchemists, they were looking for what time is. They were trying to explain time. And so the alchemists, what they would do is they'd go through this process of using spirit to then create the object at the end of time. So when time was done, what they would show you is the cube of salt. And inside of that was all of the work that created the cube. Gleaming the cube. But people think they got to put that in their body. And what that's doing is actually, it's not representative of the spirit of energy of life. The spirit and the energy of life is what a lemon or a lime or a potato or a living system is. Salt itself is not living. This is the thing. Your body is the salt. The living system is the spirit. The spirit is not the thing that it is. If you kept throwing salt on a wound, imagine if you had a cut and you kept throwing salt on it. What would happen? What would happen with that? People say it cleans the wound. It stings, but it cleans it. No, it doesn't. It's removing water. It's pulling water to it. Because the water is smart and it's trying to get that salt out of the body. This is why you sweat salt. See? Now, there's so many ways. These are a lot of things I've already covered many, many times, but it's so redundant to me, because I'm interested in what life is and what truth is and what integrity is, and integration into a system. You can be integrated into an earthy system, what you'd call a dense realm, which we're all in. And you know, this is the thing about the father killing himself to come down to the realm, the burying the child, the seed in the earth. Like yes, we play in this salty realm. You know, being at the beach, everything is salt life, right? Salt is not life. That's the lie. It's not life. It is close. It's a containment. It's a reflection of life, which is fine. Just know what it is. Don't misspeak, because within language, what we've done is we found ourselves exasperated and confounded with the way that people express themselves and with what they think language is and what words mean. So the source of it, meaning the source of life, is not salt. The source of life is energy, and no one can tell you what that is. It seems to be Jesus, which is imagination, which creates Julius Caesar, which is salt, which is the salty fish or the salty sea, or the fish that goes on the salad, right? Caesar salad, Caesar's dead world. The world of the dead is salt. The world of the living is spirit. Now they combine, and this is where the other works I've always gotten to and try to explain to people is there is no, it's intertwined. You can't have life without death, and you can't have death without life. Death means stagnant, operous, like this is the mode of squaring things. This is what this object looks like. I need a chair, so therefore I'm sitting on death. I walk on death every day. My body is death. My spirit that animates me to be able to make death, I create death every day. And so do you. You go to your job, and you if you work with your hands, you're doing something, you're creating death. Even of minds. So these things must be understood and understood that you don't put the death inside of you. You put spirit inside of you. If you had two people sitting side by side and you kept feeding someone salt and you kept feeding someone, I'm just going to go with the crazy one, keep feeding someone alcohol, who's going to die quicker? Who's going to be turned into what that is? Spirit or death? Or salt? Excuse me, spirit or salt? All of a sudden their organs are fucking up and all this shit's going on, and like salt has what do they call it? The LD50, lethal dose. Lethal dose. I got Mike Tyson on that shit right there. Lethal dose 50. So 50% of the rats or mice will die with a certain amount. Salt is very, it's got a very low level. Like, it doesn't take a lot to kill you. And in fact, you can prove it to yourself. Go into the ocean that you think is so important and drink the salt water. You'll end up shitting your pants and vomiting, and you'll drain all of the water out of your body, because that's what salt does. Then you can understand what is the Dead Sea? What does it mean to be the salt of the earth? This is where, because we have an obvious distrust for, say, the controllers or the government or all of these things, but people don't even understand what they're doing. They're showing you something so you can figure it out for yourself. Salt is not to be internalized. You jump into the ocean so it's outside of you. So that way the sun charges the water, which has salt in it, and the salt is the connective tissue, if you could use that, or a matrices of being able to cube forms of light that is just corpuscles of movement and energy everywhere, that is multiplying, it's bubbling, it's seeding itself. Light seeds itself as circles, and salt cubes itself as squares. So then we get into the masonry and the circles and the squares. We can get even what the circular people are and what the square people are. But the circles, which are vibrations, create a stagnant form, which is a dead pond, which is stilled water, which is salt water. If you put enough salt in water, it becomes a cube or a crystal. But even the crystal, we're not going to go that far with this right here. I'm going to give you guys like 5 more minutes, but hopefully this is enough information to Mia's new pair of glasses, that she can put herself another lens and another filter on, because pretty girl, very, very intelligent, but jumps to conclusions because she doesn't have internal knowledge of these things, nor is she an alchemist. And I only say these things and not to argue, not to fight, not to, take it or leave it. But the work's been done by plenty of people before me. And what we're talking about is pure, clean water, which is the rivers of life, fruit juice. The salt is different because it's the language is confusing people. Salt inside of what you'd call juice is not salt. Then we get into carbon bonding and we get all these other things, and it has nothing to do with what the salt is beneath your feet. How did the salt beneath your feet get inside of a pineapple? How did it get inside of an orange? How did it get inside of a lemon? It didn't, because it's something different. It's a completely different thing. So we can see the difference. You can plug two diodes into a lemon or a potato, and you'll get energy out of it. You can't do that by plugging it into salt, because there's no energy in dead salt. There's no life in dead salt. Meaning if you keep eating the Himalayan, scraping off the rocks, the dead portion of the world, and put it into your system, you will end up like the salt. But I thought you already were the salt. Which one is it? Explain to me. What does a child need from 0 to what? Breast milk, which is not salt. The mother doesn't go and find salt. The mother doesn't go consume salt from the sea. She doesn't consume salt from cutting down mountains and eating salt and then milking. This is milk. This is the mother's milk. And this even goes farther into why milk is so fucking important. And everybody's like, oh, milk is poison. No, every mother has milk. The milk is Moloch, is Martin Luther King, is all of these. The words are explaining to you densities. And so the milk that comes from any mother is always the same milk. It's nourishment, because the mother has taken all of the information into all of her portals and created the perfect food